blow, show, tell.
Hello and welcome back to the Sports Gazette. My name is Alex Guilford.
And I'm Caleb Mutombwa.
And we are here with another episode of Blow, Show, Tell, the show in which we try to, in your words, Caleb, clarify, simplify the laws of rugby, try and explain why referees have made decisions the way they have on the pitch, and even if we can't do that, we'll at least try and break down what we think they should have done.
Absolutely. It's here to make sure that when we watch the game of rugby, we have a bit more clarity into the thought process that officiators have when they're officiating the beautiful game of rugby.
Perfect. So we're going to look at an incident from this series of the Autumn Internationals last weekend. It's France against South Africa. We're going to roll the clip for viewers, explain to us what is happening here.
All right, let's take a look. So what we see there is South African player in the scrum cap there, Cheslin Colby, is in the air trying to gather a kick.
Can you just clarify what numbers he's wearing?
He's wearing number 14, South African Cheslin Colby. He's in the air with the scrum cap. You can't miss him. He's right up in the air. As he goes up, trying to gather the ball, he's got his eyes on the ball. You see blue number 9 coming in, initially attempting to catch the ball, but you can see that he does not have a realistic chance to gather the ball.
Particularly with Colby coming in at the speed and height that he is.
Yes, so Colby has beat him to the challenge of the ball because Colby is higher and Colby has gotten there first. Colby has gone up in the air and we see that Anton Dupont does not slow down, gets Colby on the feet whilst Colby is in the air, and Colby has that terrible, terrible spin in the air and he falls with his head and neck area touching the ground first.
It's a really, really nasty hit to the ground. Now, we have said, I think in every episode so far, we're in episode 3 now, we have said the 3 important things in rugby and the laws of rugby nowadays are safety, safety, and safety. I don't think viewers at home are going to need too much clarification on the fact that this was an unsafe thing for Dupont to do. I think that speaks for itself. Exactly what does the law say? How much of an infringement has Dupont committed here? He's the best player in the world, isn't he? Probably.
Probably, arguably, it depends.
Like honest chap.
Depends
well,
where you are. It depends where you are.
Sure.
If you're in Auckland, it's somebody else. If you're in Marseille, it's somebody else. But if you look at the law 9.17, it talks about you cannot do anything, be it push, touch, strike, tackle a player who has their feet off the ground.
Both feet.
It has to be both feet. Yeah. So once one of the legs touches the floor, it's fair game. You can hit him as much as you want. But if you've got both feet off the floor, you cannot touch that player. So Colby, by virtue of that law, is a protected species in the air. Dupont had no realistic chance to catch the ball after he had lost the contest in terms of how quickly Colby got there and how fast Colby got into the air. Went for Colby. Colby fell onto the ground with his head and neck area touching the ground first. The entry point, usually, it's 8 weeks for infringements like these. Anton Dupont gets away with 4.
Okay.
World Rugby cites a couple of reasons for that.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting because the on-field official, he seemed pretty clear in his mind straight away, didn't he? This is going to be a red card. And the question to the TMO was, can anyone give me a reason not to award a red card? Absolutely not. He's straight off. Yeah,
there were no mitigating circumstances. In the words of the recently 100-capped international referee, who's now the most capped referee in Wayne Barnes, 101 internationals officiated, very well experienced. He said, there are no reasons for me not to award the red card. It was clear and obvious.
It's clear and obvious. There's no reason not to award a red card based on the offence committed. But of course, in the citing panel afterwards, they did feel there was a bit of mitigation to not award him the full punishment.
So the mitigation was not really about what happened on the field. It was remorsefulness of Anton Dupont. Oh, really? That's why they took away the 4 weeks entry point and he went away with 4 weeks of a match ban. So he's out of the Autumn Nations. He's not going to take part in any of those games.
Which is really bad news for France.
Bad news for France, especially considering that he's one of their top players. But I'm happy to see that there was no discussion about whether this is a red card or not. He went off the field, just worried about how Cheslin Colby went onto the ground, went for an HIA. He is playing this coming week So it seems he's passed all the protocols. But that's just to give one of the clear and obvious incidents in the game of rugby that doesn't need debate for you to know what that looks like and how that should be dealt with.
Now, it clearly was quite dangerous for Colby being on the receiving end of that, but for a casual viewer like me, a fairly casual viewer who doesn't understand necessarily the integral complexities of all the laws of rugby, it kind of seemed like a bit of an honest mistake to me. He was going for the ball and he perhaps didn't realise in time that he was going to be beaten to it. But at the same time, is the reason for this punishment simply to take a zero tolerance approach to this kind of thing and put safety first?
It's a double-edged sword. So you've got the zero tolerance part, and you've got the idea that if you look closer to the footage again, Anton Dupont, as you can see there, does not have his eyes on the ball. That's where the challenge is. He has no eyes on the ball, which means he had agreed that he had lost the contest for the ball. Once that happens, he could have changed direction. Then he might not have a direct impact with Cheslin Colby. He could have shifted. We've seen he's got feet. He can shift himself around the field. We've seen him do that whilst he's attacking. So the challenge there is, number one, he's lost the contest. Number two, he does not have eyes to the ball. And number three, he could have avoided being in contact with Cheslin Colby.
We've seen it in a few incidents already that the player, the offending player, trying to take evasive action automatically gets them a bit of, not necessarily a pass, but it counts in their favour when it comes to an offence being committed. And he has seen the player and not demonstrated any of that. He basically hasn't reacted quick enough, deliberately or not. Doesn't matter. It's not about intention at all, is it?
It's not about intention. It's about what it ends up being. And we've seen that when you show some signs of pulling out and the laws of physics work against you, those are what the referees will start to call mitigating circumstances.
But that's not what they take into account when they attributed a ban to Dupont.
No, because there was no effort from him to avoid Cheslin Colby. It's just the remorse he showed. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right. Well, I think that clears that one up.
That clears that one up. Clear and obvious, as they say.
Clear and obvious. It's not soccer, though, is it? As Nigel Owens likes to say. Clear and obvious is the word they use in VAR for soccer. Is it clear and obvious error?
Rugby, they use it in rugby as well. Clear and obvious, he was offside there. Clear and obvious, the try has been scored. So there is some similarities.
Oh, great. So I think that we've cleared that one up pretty well, haven't we?
Brilliant.
Any idea what we're looking at next week?
We have to watch the rugby, haven't we?
Have to watch the rugby and see. Great. Thanks so much for joining us on the Sports Gazette for another episode of Blow, Show, Tell.
Blow, show, tell.